Hey YouTube. Okay, so this took me about a week or more, but basically what I've been doing is researching upon different methods that people use in old craft or tradcraft when using blood, which is what I want this video to be about: blood magic, or the use in blood in the craft. Okay, so blood was used during the Germanic tribes, so it's normally the Norse people and the Anglo-Saxons, and it was called blot. I think that's right. Yeah, the blots. And blood was considered to have the power of the person, its originator basically. And when the person was killed, the blood was sprayed upon the walls, and it was also the statues were fed the blood, basically dripped blood, and the participants were covered in blood. It sounds very terrifying, but it was later stolen from the Catholic Church as a means to bless, obviously not with blood. Now, sorry, one magpie, I'm superstitious. Now, in terms of, that it's been in sacrifices, and I think that's where it comes from when it comes to traditional witchcraft. I think that's where it is trying to root from. I also do think it's trying to root from the witch trials, where witches were said to feed their familiars with blood. Now, this is basically my spirit house, my house for my familiar, and it's got blood in it, and I do it because I feed my familiar with blood. So it comes from the witch trials as well, when it said that witches were said to feed their familiar with their blood through various different methods. So I also think it comes from that, but I do think it represents a sacrificial thing. When you use blood in witchcraft, you really just put your sheer will into it. I mean, to me, every time I've used blood in a spell, it has never failed to work. And I think it's because it's kind of like you're saying, I want this thing that bad, I am willing to bleed for it. I'm willing to put my blood into this, my sheer determination, my sheer will, and you put the very essence of life into that spell as well. By doing that, you just put life force into that magic and into that spell. Okay, so people also employ the use of menstrual blood as well, and it's meant to be associated with human binding, as in binding someone to you. In various traditions, in the hoodoo tradition, you put menstrual blood in somebody's food if you want to make them love you, fall in love with you, basically. It's also considered to have fertility powers, to use in puppets to basically make them alive. Or it's also put the soil of the foot of a baby plant to give it strength to grow, or used in fertility spells as well. Now, in folklore, it's said that if a witch has put a curse on you, there's one thing to do. Now, this is definitely a British thing. I don't know if it's anything else, but this is just a folklore thing. It's said to scratch the witch's brow until she bleeds, and that way the curse has been broke. It's normally done with an iron nail. And the last case was in the 1930s. I think it was the last case. It was in the 1930s, and it was a man, and he was pinned down and had his forehead cut open with an iron nail to stop a spell, basically. Which, pretty fucking horrible. But yeah, that happened. It was in the West Country sort of area, like Cornwall, Devon, all those sort of places, which some of them tend to be a bit hillbilly-ish. beautiful, beautiful place, but you get some oddballs there. You know, I'm not saying everybody there is an oddball, but you do get some crazy people. And witchcraft is very much alive in the West Country. You've got, you know, Cornish witchcraft, which is amazing, brilliant, the Pella tradition. But anyway, I'm going off subject. The poor man's head was cut open, and afterward he was pinned to the floor with a pitchfork, which is another way to break a witch's spell. So yeah, it said that in order to break a witch's spell, you meant to make them bleed. I'm trying to think of other things. You also make oaths with your blood. Traditional witchcraft works with a lot of spirits. It works with spirits rather. You know, you do work with gods, but mainly, you know, you work with the gods, basically say, hello, have some food, and you're off. And it's mainly spirit work. For instance, I mean, in terms of gods, I work with Hecate. So, Hecate is the only goddess that I work with that's ever wanted blood, and I do give it to her. I don't slip my wrists open or anything like that, just a lancet. All you need is a medical lancet or a razor, but use a lancet and use your finger, nothing else, because I don't want anybody getting hurt or anything like that. You know, it's unnecessary to put a lot of blood into it. It's completely unnecessary, and no human sacrifices, please. But what I do is I prick my finger and I'll put the blood on the candle, and basically give her the blood and say, you know, Hecate, Dark Mother, I give you this blood. Sorry, first thing in the morning, so caffeine. So yeah. In terms of spirits tend to be very drawn towards blood. But there's a bit of a clash with me personally. In traditional witchcraft, you do feed the ancestors with blood. You can do, and you can feed the spirits that you work with blood. You got to remember, I've been practicing as well Haitian voodoo, and in that, you do not give spirits your blood. That is a big no-no, and you don't. It's like, whoa, because it said that the spirits take the life force out of you and basically just take you as an offering. Pardon me. So it tends to clash a bit. But yeah, I know in traditional witchcraft you do feed spirits blood. And there are various books that say it's not particularly traditional, just witchcraft, but it's a good book, Christian Days, the Book of the Dead. That is, Witch's Book of the Dead, sorry. That is a brilliant way that he works. You know, he basically has a skull and he feeds the skull with blood. You know, and it's, in terms of when he practices necromancy, or working with the dead, he does use blood, you know. Familiars, I use blood. And I'll tell you a bit of a story. Okay, so you've got to understand, I am not Wiccan at all, so I don't follow the Wiccan read, and I'm not going to. Where I used to work, basically there was somebody that pissed me off, really pissed me off, and they complained to me, to a manager. They complained about me, and at the time I had very little money. I really had no money. Now, they complained about me, and the manager gave me a bollocking for something that was very, very minuscule. Yeah, anyway, something that wasn't a lot, but my manager was a complete bitch from hell. Now, after work had finished, I went straight home and I just went sick, because this person was only new, that they was really new, and had basically made my life very difficult, and I went home and I got my finger and I just got a blade and I went on my finger and dripped it into basically my familiar's house and said, right, listen up, I want this person to have night terrors. I want this person to be afraid. I want this person to be petrified. I want this person to be in pain. And I'm giving it a time scale. I'm giving it a week. So take the offering of blood that I've given you and go and do the work that I've asked you to, basically. And I done it. And the person was off for a week, ill, completely ill, and apparently they couldn't sleep, they had problems sleeping and stuff like that. Basically, the basis of the story is every time I've put my blood into a spell, it has worked, and I think that's will. I think that is sheer will that you put into a spell. So I do think it's a good thing to use blood in ritual, and I think that's a lot of things that sort of separates traditional witches from Wiccans. Traditional witches are not afraid to use blood in their spells, and sometimes even Wiccans have called traditional witches sort of evil or demonic. Yeah, you know, because of the way in which they work, you know, they use blood, there's the way in which we work may seem a lot darker and stuff like that. But yeah, anyway. So there's that, but as I said, it does work with a lot of spirits, so spirits tend to be very attracted to blood, familiars and the dead alike. Whether you choose to serve the dead with blood, that's entirely up to you. I've also heard that spit is meant to be a good substitute for blood. Whether or not that's actually true, I don't know, but I just thought I'd throw that out there. I personally wouldn't say that, but I do think if you are to do it, you need to do it properly. Don't start, I get really squeamish. Don't start, cutting your arms up and stuff like that. I'm not encouraging that at all. There is nothing wrong with having a lancet, a medical lancet, and going, what they use to test for diabetes and dripping it on. Or, do that. Go to your chemist and get a medical lancet. If you are to use blood, do it properly. So yeah, there you are. And I hope it helps. Over and out, and take care.